Well, I apologize for taking longer than I initially said that I would to get this continuation of the sight words uh, vlog done. I know I had said it would just be a couple days, and I think that was a couple weeks ago. It's been a little bit crazy between spring break and spring break is a relative term depending on what state you live in. And since I'm working with some different states, some are on spring break when some aren't, and vice versa. So it seems like coming and going has just actually gotten worse over the last few weeks instead of lessening up with Easter. But having said that, I am also in the process of doing some work with Stenhouse on a professional development book series that I'm really excited about. So I'm going to be splitting the time that I would normally have devoted to the vlog with this project, and I'll be still touching on the same content and actually doing some back and forth in preparation for what the first book is going to be involving. So look for that to also come, but it might slow down some of the vlog entries to address some of the questions that I get via email. I still would love to get them here on the vlog instead. I seem to continuously get these questions about things that are asked to be addressed in email form or on Facebook in the messaging, and if you could put them here, that would be ideal, because then everybody can see some of the method to the madness as far as what's talked about and how we kind of go around the different topics. But for today's purpose, I want to stick with the focus. And this is a little tricky for me to do because I'm going to get specific here with regard to sight words. And as I do that, I want to make sure I don't venture off into what to do when a secret doesn't work, because that's a whole topic in and of itself, and it's the best part of when you're using the secrets, what you get to do, because it's the equivalent of, if you're an emergency room doctor, not having to deal with the appendicitis case, but instead getting to work on the spear that went through 18 people. Not that that's a good thing that a spear would, go through 18 people, but it's the excitement of the non-norm. It's working outside of the box that the kids actually are the most excited and motivated to grab onto, bite into, and chew on. Not when the secret does exactly what it should and the word is easy to figure out because the sounds are made as they should be. But it's what happens when they have to play that. What else can it be? What else can we try? What other tools can we use? Looking at the eyes, ears, nose, and throat of a word, which we call the A, E, I, O, and U, and asking yourself, based on what I know, what else could be going on here, and what else could I attempt to attack this problem with? Now, that is a whole different or a whole different bag of worms than what we're going to talk about today, but there is some cross-correlation, because as I said, when we're looking at the sight words, and I did rewatch vlog part 1 and 2 just to make sure I picked up where I left off, but when we are looking at the sight words from a secret stories vantage point, we're looking more at those words that we have got to somehow highlight and put a spotlight on, because we don't have any tools to apply to work with them. So what you would typically traditionally call a sight word or a dolch word per se, from a secret stories context, it's a different animal. They're not the dolch words necessarily. As a matter of fact, very few dolch words fall into what we would put onto a word jail, which is the equivalent of a secret stories sight word wall. Reason being, and I did say this in the last vlog, what is that with the secret stories, I tend to prefer to put up words that learners have nothing to bring to the table to attack with, that they are powerless against, and that they have literally no choice other than isolated, repetitious memory for being able to read or write that particular word. And if you really look at the dolch words, if you look at what we typically in a traditional classroom would consider to be our sight words, our high frequency words, they're anything but words learners have no power over. Now, granted, if you're not using the secret stories and you have a very limited supply of tools with which to bring to the table to attack text with, for example, your typical kindergarten classroom by November might only have 6 letters and 10 sight words under their belt. So obviously, you're quite limited in what you have to apply to decoding and encoding text. So in those instances, I understand how sight words have evolved to fill in the gap of everything that a learner actually has no tools to work with. But from a secret story context, keep in mind, we're coming at this from a different angle. Kids actually have a buffet of everything they need to crack through text, every pattern, every letter, every sound. The individual letters, as you could see in the early vlogs, are done with motor memory, muscle memory. So those are knocked off in the first 2 weeks to 2 months, finished, overdone, and then used for the purpose they're taught, which is to read with and to write with. The vowel sounds, whether they be short or long, are done with the dramatic cues. The ability to flip between the two, short or long, is through Mommy E. And then babysitter vowels, which I don't think I talked about yet because that text is going to be at a higher level where babysitter vowels are normally encountered. I will hit on that. But just keeping in mind as I move forward with the sight word conversation, it's going to have two different meanings depending on whether you're coming from a secret story context or from outside of it. So outside of the secret story context, your sight words will primarily be what we think of as dolch words. And I am going to focus on those because I want to clarify the difference between dolch words and words that would go to jail in a secret story classroom. In other words, go on a secret story, quote unquote, word wall. Now, I'm not going to assume that everybody uses a word wall for the same purpose because we certainly don't, depending on your grade level and even just depending on how you teach and where you come to text from can dictate the purpose of your word wall. And I can say that from my perspective, I like to see a flexible nature with regard to a word wall or a word jail. And I like to see it almost become a student artifact. It's created by students. It's for purpose of student use. It belongs to the students. It's a product they create. And in the secret story context, it's a product they create based on their needs at hand in context of whatever it is they're doing. Going back to the brain-based focus or alignment, it's a need to know. It's a survival mode. It's a what do I need to know right now to do what I'm trying to do right now that's important to me because I want to do it. I want to write it. I want to read it. Need to know, when you boil it all down, is the best way to connect with a young learner because there is nothing a learner will do quicker or with more passion than what they want to get what they want to get, or to accomplish what they want to accomplish. When it's our goals superimposed upon their slate of the to-do list, that's where you can lose them. You can lose a lot of them. And even those that are most diligent don't always know why they're doing what they're doing, which can really sever the way that the brain is able to maintain and revisit or reuse or recall the skills that even your more diligent students are able to pick up in the moment, but may not seem to retain long term. That need to know is a way for automatic entrenchment in the brain connections with regard to how we do, why we do, and how to maintain an ability to get back to that tool and use it again for other purposes. Not necessarily the same purpose. With sight words, it's really all about the same purpose. I can read the word what because I know how to read the word what. And anytime I see the word what, I can read the word what. It's not about owning what goes into that word what so that you can pull it apart, twist it around, put it back together in a different way for a different purpose to write a different word, or perhaps to crack apart another word that isn't what but maybe contains some of the same features. Now, that's to me the kind of the key difference with value in having approached your sight words as a word wall for memorization based on dolch words as they are comprehensively, all 220, or word wall for the purpose of words we have no other tools to bring to the table to attack them with, and thus they must be memorized. I want to get the most bang for the buck, the most value for the time in any word that contains pieces that I might want to use for something else later, for another word, for another activity, for another purpose. Every time I utilize a tool or a piece of what's in one word to take, pull, and apply to another word, I'm building another highway, another little route, another little indention or entrenchment within the brain. One more connection to that piece of content, whether that piece of content is a short A sound or an EU sound, whether it's, if they know AU and AW are in love and they go, ah, because they get so embarrassed whenever they have to stand right up against each other in a word. If they own that skill and they know that skill, every time they revisit that to either read or write whatever the word is they're trying to use, that is going to deepen their ownership of that skill far more than remembering what the word August looks like and memorizing the word August so they can write it in their journal every day. Because by October, they very well might not be able to remember the word August. So we're going to be moving forward, and I'm going to do this in probably 2 more parts to get everything that I want to get in. We're going to start with the 220 dolch words. We're going to work our way through, and I am going to put up a list that you can see that's on a reference sheet that I think you might find helpful as well in your classrooms, and you'll be able to see that probably at both the beginning and the ending of this